Hi guys, so this is a video about quadratic sequences. So a sequence is quadratic if the second difference is the same. So the second difference is found by finding the difference between the terms and then finding the difference between these numbers. So effectively that's what second difference is, and this idea of second difference you probably won't really have seen it before. But anyway, so quadratic sequences are different to linear sequences. So you should really have looked at linear sequences before you look at quadratic sequences. So this anyway is how we figure out if a sequence is quadratic or not. So look at only the examples here. So the first one is 4, 7, 12, 19. So I'm going to figure out here if it's quadratic or not. So the first thing I'm going to do is just find the difference between the terms. So difference between 4 and 7 is 3. So to get from 4 to 7 I have to add 3 or plus 3. To get from 7 to 12 I have to add 5 to get from 7 to 12, so plus 5. And then to get from 12 to 19 I have to add 7. So 3, 5, 7. So that's what's kind of called the first difference. And that's what you would have used to determine whether a sequence was linear or not. So if the first difference is the same, or just if the difference is the same each time, it's linear. So this is obviously not linear because it's different, but I can find out if it's quadratic by finding out the second difference. So the second difference is just the difference between these numbers. So the difference between 3 and 5 now is 2, and then the difference between 5 and 7 is also 2. And so because the second difference here, so this is the second difference, because that's the same, well then yes, it is quadratic. So that's how you know if a sequence is quadratic or not. So let's look at the second one here. So first one is 5, and then 10, and then 20, and then 25, and then 30. So the difference between 5 and 10 is 5. Difference between 10 and 20 is 10. Difference between 20 and 25 is 5. And the difference between 25 and 30 is 5 as well. And then, so that's the first difference. So let's have a look at the second difference then. So difference between 5 and 10 is 5. 10 and 5 then is minus, you have to go back 5. And then difference between 5 and 5 is 0. So you can see here clearly that they're not the same. So the second difference is not the same there. Therefore, it's not a quadratic sequence. So here's a couple then if you just want to try them yourself. So if you want to pause the video now and just have a go at them, you're just finding the second difference in both cases, and if it's the same then the sequence is quadratic. If it's not the same then it's not. So first one here anyway, difference between 6 and 9 is 3. Difference between 9 and 13 is 4. Difference between 13 and 18 is 5. And difference between 18 and 25 is 7. So that's the first difference. The second difference then, so difference between 3 and 4 is just 1. 4 and 5 is just 1. But then difference between 5 and 7, that's 2. So therefore, you're not getting the same number here each time. So therefore, no. So it's not. Second one, difference between 8 and 17 is 9. Difference between 17 then and 32 would be 15. And difference between 32 and 53 would be 19. Actually, no, that's not, sorry, it's going to be 21, isn't it? So the difference between 32 and 53 is 21. So that's the difference between them. And then to get the second difference, so this is what determines if it's quadratic or not. So the difference between 9 and 15 is 6. And then difference between 15 and 21 is 6 as well. So I'm getting the same second difference. So therefore, yes, that one is quadratic.